What's up, guys? We just came back from the Taylor Guitars factory in San Diego, California. First, Jim showed us around the factory where we could get a little look at the manufacturing process of the Taylor guitars, and after that, we got a little private concert and showing of the new models by CEO and Chief Designer Andy Powers himself. Let's check it out.
So one of the things that people love about Taylor guitars is the playability of our necks. We've been known for a lot of years for making really smooth, easy playing necks with a slim profile. And this goes back to some of Bob Taylor's earliest guitars. And one of the things that he embraced early on was technology and tools, ways to modernize the guitar making process in ways that could make those guitars even more precisely, more consistently. And so Bob was actually one of the first acoustic guitar makers to embrace computer-controlled mills, and that's what we have here. In fact, you can see some necks in there right now being profiled. So the idea is that instead of having to do all this work by hand, we can actually program the machines to carve these necks to our very precise specifications to get exactly the profile we want for each neck and to be able to do it consistently. So the idea of repeatability is great for us as a production manufacturer. And so you can see as it's kind of slowly removing wood from those necks and giving it its ultimate shape, that's going to give you the playability that people love. And so from one neck to next, you're going to have really perfect consistency, and it really contributes to that overall hand feel and that playability that people love about our instruments. So one of the other technologies that we use in guitar making here at Taylor is laser technology. And so we started working with lasers in the mid-1990s, and now we use them for a variety of different processes. So that includes cutting the actual contours, the shape of the top, the back, the sides, and then sometimes smaller inlay material and other components of the guitars. One of the great things about lasers is that we can write programs for the lasers so that they can be super accurate in the cuts that they can make. So they can do, again, shapes, but then more intricate kinds of cuts for the inlay work, or in some cases etching that we do for some of the inlays as well. But because you have a program, basically have CO2 gas that vaporizes the wood. So you don't have a tool bit that's going to dull over time. You don't have chipping issues. So from a technology point of view, it's very accurate, it's very consistent, and it's just a really clean tool for us. So it really makes it really efficient for us from a manufacturing point of view. So what we're looking at right here is a robotic buffing system. And Buffy, as we like to call her, is setting the guitar body down, picking it up from the other side to complete a whole buffing sequence. So what we have here is a body that has had the finish sprayed and cured. And so we're basically giving that gloss finish that glossy look, a nice shine. And so traditionally we would do this work by hand. For many years, we buff guitar bodies by hand. If you do, it's one of the most physically demanding aspects of guitar making, because you've got a guitar with a lot of curves that you have to maneuver up against a buffing wheel. It's physically demanding, especially doing multiple guitars. And from one person to the next, it's hard to be really consistent about it. And so what robotics give us is that ability to do things very consistently. So we have a robotics engineer who programs these machines, and so they're able to pick up that guitar, know what model it is, because we have an RFID, radio frequency ID, in that guitar, so we can call up the correct program, and then it can go through a whole buffing sequence for that body. So you can see it, moving it, manipulating it against that buffing wheel. So we've got 3 different buffing wheels as we progress through that process, and it'll be able to cover the entire surface of that guitar, the front, the back, the sides, including, in this case, that cutaway, so that tight turn there. So this really gives us incredible consistency, so that ultimately the look of a Taylor with a gloss finish is going to be really consistent, really pleasing to the eye. So we are here in the rosette room. We talk about the rosette. It's the decorative ring that gets inlaid around the sound hole. It's actually interesting because it is partly for decorative effect. It's part of the aesthetic of a guitar, but it actually has a functional purpose as well, because when you have a top, you've got a hole cut in the middle of it. And one of the things that a rosette will do is, by inlaying a band of material around the sound hole, it actually helps stabilize the top in terms of moisture. Because if it gets dry or if it gets more humid, The rate at which moisture might leave the guitar or be added to the guitar can vary depending on whether it's the end grain or the edge grain. So this actually helps protect this part of the guitar and keep it more stable. But then there's also, of course, the decorative effect. And this is just one of many rosettes that we do here at Taylor. This is Ashley, and she's working on one of our guitars right now. And so we'll start by routing a little groove, a channel into the sound hole to prep for whatever material or pattern we're going to inlay in place. And so we make a variety of different models, different rosette patterns. And so right now she's in the process of doing some of that work. And it's interesting to point out because we use a lot of technology. We use computer mills, we use lasers and robots, but so much of the work that we do here at Taylor is hands-on attention to detail. And people are really still very much integral to the process of guitar building here at Taylor. And so this is one good example of that, where this is some of the hands-on craftsmanship that gives Taylor's that really beautiful kind of detail that makes it just a beautiful high-end premium instrument. And so there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of care that goes into that part of the process and many of the other processes. So by the time a rosette is done or any other of that work is done, maybe binding, etc., many, many, many hands have touched a Taylor guitar to help bring it to life.
Hello everyone, Andy Powers from Taylor Guitars here, where we're talking about some of the new pieces that we're bringing into our portfolio for this coming year. Now, these are particularly exciting guitars for me to get to play after having built them for so long, because in so many ways, these feel like the next generation of Taylor guitars. These are building on the guitars that we've been known for forever. Now, these are guitars that are classic forms. I mean, in this Taylor 314 CE model, we've been building these instruments for decades now. And yet, these are our most refined, most advanced versions to date. Of course, beautiful all-gloss finish, solid woods throughout, beautiful spruce top, sapele on the back and sides. But underneath the cover of that, we have some incredible new elements that are coming together in this. Some years ago, when we started bringing out what we called the V-Class internal architecture, it's a new style of bracing for acoustic guitars. One of the elements that offered to us was a greater ability to voice the guitar in a variety of ways to kind of coax different sonorities out of the instrument. And so that's worked out very well, where we have a tremendous amount of projection, great response, super accurate notes, so the pitch accuracy is really incredible, great sustain, even balance, all things that are wonderful attributes for an acoustic guitar. Now, this particular iteration is sort of our next revision in that idea. It's building on some of the flavors that we developed for our gold label instruments, as well as other refinements that we've created. So this is what we were calling a scalloped V-Class, where we're bringing in more elements of the low-end resonance of like a classic X-brace design or something that's real warm and familiar for a lot of players, specifically for players who want to be strumming rhythm parts or accompanying vocalists or singers, where you get the balance over the whole register that the V-Class architecture gives us. You get the projection, you have the sustain and the dynamic range, but you have this tremendous warmth and familiar response on the low-end register. So that idea is really exciting to bring forward. Now, what's also hidden to most players is while this looks like say a conventional Taylor guitar, this guitar is built around our new neck design, something that we're calling the action control neck. Now, for years, we built guitars that had, the neck was attached to the body with hardware in the heel and a glued fretboard. We built guitars like that for 25 years, very successfully. For the 25 years that came after that, we used what we call the Taylor neck, or some people know it as the NT neck system, where the entire neck was attached to the body with these ultra-precise spacers and attached with hardware. So if you wanted to do a neck reset or change the action, you could disassemble the guitar quite quickly, put it back together, and the guitar is ready to go for however long until you want to change it again. Well, this version, this is taking it even into the next generation, the next step, where this entire neck, and therefore the string height, it's adjustable simply by turning a screw. I could demonstrate it quickly. It takes about 20 seconds. It's as fast as tuning the guitar. And so you simply reach inside, there's an adjustment screw, you turn it until you like the way it plays, you do it with the strings all the way up to pitch, and then you're good to go. Effectively, you've just executed a neck reset. Now, something like that, that level of adjustability, I didn't want that to come at the expense of great tone. I don't want there to be too many moving parts. I want good coupling between the neck and the body, all the things that make a guitar acoustically great. One of the interesting aspects of this design is that this is perhaps our most traditional neck design. It's a long tenon neck design where the heel structure has a great deal of stability and strength, so we get a classic acoustic guitar response out of how this thing is working. It's a really interesting component. So now we have the ability to set the action exactly where you want it at the, just literally the turn of a screw from now until ever. So maybe you never touch it. Maybe you touch it whenever the weather changes. That's up to you. If you change it for different playing styles, well, it's very easy. We have this kind of next generation voicing in our V-Class architecture. At the same time, we're introducing a new pickup system called the Claria. Now, one of my colleagues, Tyler's going to be talking a lot about that in the coming days and weeks. But these host of features into this guitar make this probably the most advanced version of a classic Taylor guitar form that we've built to date. So we're thrilled to be introducing it. So literally, this is probably the only neck reset you'll ever do with the guitar sitting on your lap. This is, in the world of a guitar repairman, I mean, I have experience taking a cappuccino maker and using the steam wand to try and steam a neck off, loosen the glue, get that thing, pry that thing apart. Hopefully it doesn't break while you're doing it. You dry it out for a week or two. You try and re-chisel all the joinery to get it in the right spot. You glue the whole mess back together. You refret the guitar so you can sand the fretboard. You change the saddle and work the bridge over so you can get the thing set up exactly how you want it. It's difficult. It's expensive. And it doesn't often reflect the world that guitar players live in now. That's not what we're looking for. So in this case, I happen to like the way this guitar plays right now. But let's say I wanted to play it with real low action. I just did a neck reset. Oh, I overshot it. The action's way too low. It's too low for how I play most of the time. The guitar's still in tune, which is interesting. Let's say I want it to be a little higher, because that's just too uncomfortable for me. That feels pretty good. Guitar's still in tune. But a neck reset became literally that easy. When we can make a new idea that feels this important, it's difficult. So we start on the nice guitar. So this was a neck design that we first introduced last year on our gold label 814 model. And throughout the year, we developed more of that collection of guitars. So it expanded to a 517, 717, and then the 514s and 714 models, but only within the gold label series or collection. And now we're bringing that into the rest of our standard collection, like our core models. So you'll see some of these elements be introduced across our Builder's Edition guitars, or our standard core models like a 314 or an 814. And so something like that, as we develop our ability to spread it across more models and develop it, refine it to fit this size versus that size, I like to do that. So this is something that definitely we'll see roll across more of our upper end guitars. This particular neck design was like having a new tool in my toolbox as a guitar maker, because it opens up, it unlocks a lot of other voicing possibilities, because there is a tonality to the neck joint. It's a subtle one, and depending on how you design the guitar, you'll either hear it or you won't. But that's one of the big basic decisions that a guitar maker would face when they go to set out building an instrument, to go, if I know I'm going to attach the neck to the body in this way, that means that I'm going to design the guitar like this so that it sounds the way I want to. Well, when I know I'm going to use a neck design, this neck design, that unlocks a wider array of options. There's a wider variety of neck options, or of tonal options that I can build into the bracing of this guitar. Go, well, I can allow this one to move a little more like that, or like this, because I know I can adjust the guitar exactly how I want to for whatever climb it goes into, whatever playing style a person wants to approach the instrument with. And so, yes, I do like to put those elements together. So this neck design with something like the scalloped V-class voicing, want them to go together. This instrument that I am holding, this is both new and old. This is a reintroduction of a classic, what we call a 10 or a dreadnought shape, a real iconic kind of silhouette in the acoustic guitar world. This is an instrument that we're bringing into our Gold Label collection. Now, the Gold Label collection was something we started a little more than a year ago now to introduce a new body shape, our Super Auditorium, but more importantly, this new kind of suite of guitar making designs, one of them that we call the fan V-class voicing, as well as a new neck design. A lot of new stuff for even us here at Taylor, where we're known for building new kinds of guitars. But this is an instrument that's bringing in some of our most innovative features to date in order to sound familiar. It sounds like a classic acoustic guitar that's a little like home. It's a really broad, warm, powerful kind of a sound. So this design, it focuses around our V-class architecture. Now, when we introduced that design, we knew that it would unlock a lot of possibilities for ways that we could flavor the sound of an acoustic guitar, to create a more modern sound, create a more high fidelity sound, or create a more time-honed sound, something that is familiar and classic within the acoustic guitar world. And so this particular design, it shares this fan V-class arrangement, this voicing that we've introduced this past year on our Super Auditorium, as well as our Grand Pacific models. We're building a dreadnought that has a little deeper body than a conventional Taylor dreadnought has had in the past. And the entire design, it focuses around this new innovation that we've created in the action control neck. And so when I put those components together, I end up with a voicing that it's very familiar in the world of traditional acoustic guitars, and yet it has next generation level adjustability, as well as accuracy and tonal balance that I've never had in an old guitar. And so as I see it from a player and a builder's perspective, this is kind of the best of all worlds. So these are instruments that we're adding into our collection. Here, this is a 710 model. I've got a mahogany and spruce 510 model to be joined with others in that collection.
My name is Tyler Robertson. I work in R&D here at Taylor Guitars, and we're here talking about the Claria electronic system. The Claria system was developed with the idea of the artist and the player that wants a straightforward, plugged-in sound that's easy to pick up your guitar and have a ready-to-play great sound immediately. No tweaking. You can tweak if you want to, but just a really straight plug-and-play, great sounding system ready for the stage. Yeah, we decided to develop something different than ES2 because we had ES2. You know, that's an option that we have, and it sounds great. It's loved by a lot of people. But for some people, some artists, players, there was use cases where the ES2 wasn't, the dynamics of it were either too much or the sensitivity was too much. But we heard from people wanting an alternative. And also, when it comes to controls in the guitar, we always were hearing, not always, but we heard quite often that, hey, can we have a sound hole control? Or can I have a guitar that not necessarily has, you know, the controls? And that way, you know, it's more flows into the design of the guitar in a way that the ES knobs maybe didn't for some people. So we wanted to provide that option as well with this system. Yeah, it's about as polar opposite as you can get in terms of the acoustic pickup world. Whereas the ES2 is going for a very sensitive, big dynamics sound, almost like a microphone sound. The Claria system is going for a classic, like plugged-in acoustic sound, while trying to make that sound as natural and as best as that could be. So we went with a under the saddle transducer. That's part of the design. Because of its inherent feedback resistance, it's the ease of EQing that kind of system. And then we approached it with a preamp that has been dialed in with many artists providing feedback to us on the frequency range of it to make it a system that's as functional on any platform, whether you're playing a big venue, whether a small coffee shop, you're in your bedroom, you're going to get a similar enjoyable sound in each without having really a technical problem on your hands. It was artists and customers asking for the development of this alternative system. We didn't necessarily go into this saying, hey, we want to make this thing for people, we hope you like it. It was people saying, I love my guitar, for whatever reason, ES2 doesn't work out for me, or a lot of cases they have an ES2 guitar that they play at home, but when I'm playing out, I maybe play this other system. So we were getting asked about it. It really started with the world over different people commenting like, oh, could we do this or that? But we started with local artists here in San Diego, just a few people that we could iterate with frequently. You know, they could bring their guitar in, we could change something, we can send it back out. And so that was the early ones. And we realized that we had something that was getting pretty good when one of our artists went and played at the Rady Shell here in San Diego. It's a large venue right on the waterfront, beautiful sound, but also open air. And I went down, I bicycled down and got there late, as I do, and I missed the sound check. And I asked the sound guy, you know, how is the acoustic player? And he was confused as to why I even wanted to know. I was like, how is it to EQ him? And he's like, I didn't do anything. And then that continued to happen where we would make small changes with the artists as we went, and then the change requests just stopped. And then we just started getting requests for can you put this in my other guitar? Can you put this in my other guitar? And that's what led us to then looking, hey, why don't we provide this system in the next gen guitars and get it out there? If we're hearing from people with such a wide variety of musical backgrounds all saying they're enjoying it, well then let's offer that as something to everyone. The controls on the guitar is almost synonymous with Taylor, you know, the 3 knobs here. But again, that's something we can do that, and we have that as an option. We wanted to provide sound hole controls as an option. We have been receiving a lot of questions since the next gen guitars got released as to if we'll have a 3-hole control option for Claria or things going into the future. Absolutely, we'll have a retrofit option for those holes. But we wanted to release the Claria system with sound hole controls to avoid confusion, for one. That's a straightforward answer. If we had the exact same looking controls, how could you tell the two apart? And then also to see the response to it and get feedback from people as to if this is something they prefer or if they prefer the 3-hole controls. So that's the controls at half. Mids all the way down. Mids all the way up. So you might prefer one or the other for what you play or how you play. Between the ES2 and the Claria system, the controls have changed, so that's an important distinction as well. So if we had the exact same looking knobs on both, it would be confusing going from one guitar with ES2 to Claria. Instead of bass treble volume on the ES2 system, the Claria system has tone, which is a treble roll-off, so like a tone knob on an electric guitar, and then a contour control, which is a middle contour, which is like a deep middle cut notch, which is targeting a fundamental frequency of not only Taylor guitars, but most acoustic guitars we've tried in. So that would be, yeah, again, tone, middle contour, and then volume is the third control. You might be asking, why isn't there a bass control? We wanted to keep it to 3, otherwise, you know, why not 10? So we set a bass frequency that's a nice, safe level to resist feedback, but also still provide body of the guitar. You can always turn up the bass on your amp or your mixing board. On a guitar, often what we'd hear from sound people and artists is, I hit my bass knob by accident, now my guitar's feeding back. So went with something different, treble roll-off, mid-cut, volume. This case, mid knob all the way down. Brutal. Mids down, tone up. And middle down, tone all the way down. So there's a lot of sounds in there. The difference between our pickup system and other pickup systems on the market, which are great, they all have their thing that they do, and everyone might find a preference for the music that they play. With ours, we did use a common style of under the saddle transducer. We made changes, as you know, Taylor is often wants to do, to make a better sound for our guitars, we felt. But we dialed in the frequency range to suit practical limits, I guess you would say. So whereas another system might have the extents of the frequency range might be greater, but for ours we've tailored it, tailored it to be really practical. And the main thing is it sounds really clear. There's often maybe some sonic artifacts or overtones. It's hard to say what it is sometimes with acoustic guitars and other people's electronics. Intermodulation, distortion, I don't know. But we keep hearing from artists and players that just, I can't believe how clear this sounds. The notes just kind of bloom out. There's harmonics that go into that. There's just really carefully selected filtering in the preamp that does that. There's like a great variety of acoustic electronic systems that you can pick from on the market. There's from just putting a microphone in front of your guitar. That's usually the best sounding one. But it's also the most problematic. Now you have to set up a microphone and everything. There's microphone inside a guitar. Now you get the sound of the inside of your guitar through a microphone, and that has its own challenges. And we had all these options to us when we started this system, and we took a look at what are the options that we hear from problems-wise from our customers, or customer service gets questions from, how do I set this up? And so one of those was microphone system isn't as often easy as to dial in for most people as for the internal microphones on a guitar. So that's why we didn't go with microphones in this system. Not to say we might not in the future, but at least for something that we wanted to be straightforward, we said, yeah, let's just go the transducer route. What people love most about the Claria system is they just play. They plug their guitar in. It's more like an electric guitar in terms of the experience that they've found. They don't need to think about it anymore. That's been the most rewarding part of it, and that really is it. That's the best feedback we've got. Sound people, they've been extremely happy because they're usually on the receiving end of somebody plugging in and trying to play. Electronics are part of the guitar system. Even if there's different wood, we know it changes the sound of a guitar. It's going to change the sound of your plugged-in sound. So having the ability to dial in your electronic system to the sound of that guitar as well, that's been really handy for artists, where they've said, okay, I can, from night to night, I can get the same sound. So that's critical.